Plus, we come on the air with breaking news and major developments in the Jeffrey Epstein case. In just the last hour, the Justice Department has released transcripts and audio from the questioning of Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who, as you will recall, was once the president's personal defense attorney. We are still here combing through all of it. Our panel of reporters and experts are going to help us go through it bit by bit. The other major development today, the Justice Department has begun sending the first tranche of the Epstein files to the House Oversight Committee, pursuant to the committee's subpoena. We're going to have a member of that committee on with us later in the program. Okay, so here's what we can show you from that interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, starting with Maxwell being asked about Epstein's relationship with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage?
Never.
Did you ever observe, you said that I mean, have you seen there's photographs, public photographs of Mr. Epstein and President Trump together?
Yes.
And there's photographs of, I think you're in some of the photographs as well. Those all appear to be social settings.
Yes. That's my memory. If there were social settings, I don't know. Epstein's, if he had, whatever the nature of the president's friendship, if you will, or however you want to define that with Epstein, I was never witness. I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance.
This interview, recorded July 24th of this year, took place under a cloud of controversy. Maxwell has been at the center of questions and concerns about the Trump administration's botched handling of the Epstein case. That has escalated with bipartisan backlash and anger from Americans on both sides. Maxwell is seeking a pardon from Donald Trump while her own legal fight plays out in court. She has asked the Supreme Court to review her case. Here is more from her interview. Here she is telling Todd Blanche that she believes Jeffrey Epstein did not die by suicide.
So you think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
And I ask that because if you don't believe that there's any truth to the allegations of blackmail, or that he had kind of a list, or that he had reasons to have people hate him, why would somebody kill him in prison?
In prison, where I am, they will kill you, or they will pay, somebody can pay a prisoner to kill you.
That is where we start today with New York Times Justice Department reporter Glenn Thrush. Also joining us, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona, plus MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, and former top official at the DOJ and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman. Andrew Weissman, I know we are all working our way through these documents, through this transcript. Your top line.
I think that people need to sort of remember a couple things. One, they need to remember who Ghislaine Maxwell is. In other words, is she believable? So remember that Judge Paul Engelmeyer pointed out that she lied to victims. She lied to the court. She lied in a civil deposition. She lied to pretrial services. That is what the judge found, the judge who was overseeing the issue of whether transcripts would be released. And so that's a good reminder in terms of when you listen to and read what she has to say, can you believe her? You also have the circumstances of her interview. Remember that she got something already for it, which was she was transferred to sort of a camp right after giving this interview. Third thing to remember is there would be substantial reason to think that her answers were somewhat rehearsed. Remember that there is a friendship, there's nothing improper with that, between Todd Blanche, the president's former defense counsel and now the deputy attorney general. He had a friendship and has a friendship with her lawyer, her defense lawyer. And so when you go into these interviews, it would not be unusual for Todd Blanche to know very well what she is going to say on certain things. So those are all reasons that you would be thinking about, is she telling the truth? What is her motive? And so it doesn't mean she's lying, but those are things you'd want to consider as to whether you can believe her or not. And then finally, there's what does she have to say? And so far, and obviously we're all just making our way through this, a lot of what she is saying is not as a first-hand percipient witness saying, I know for sure because I was with Jeffrey Epstein all the time. Even if you got through all of this and thought, you know what, she is telling the truth up one side and down the other, she doesn't actually exculpate anyone by saying, I did not personally witness this, or I did not personally think he was doing anything, quote, inappropriate, unquote, a word that, it's hard to imagine somebody, I'd like to know whether she thinks her own conduct was inappropriate when she has been found to have been aiding a sexual predator and herself engaging in that conduct, as found again by a judge and by a jury. It's not just me saying it. So even if you took everything she said to the bank, she is not providing sort of clear firsthand testimony that exculpates the current president. So all of that, I think, is something that one has to consider. And sort of the final thing I consider is I would feel a lot better about whether I should believe her or not if the career attorneys on the case, the people like Maureen Comey, who was actually fired by this Justice Department, was present, if the career FBI agents were present, so that I knew that it was a serious interview trying to get at the truth. So let me just give you a very, very quick example. You could imagine somebody who's trying to get the truth saying, so Ms. Maxwell, you actually don't know one way or the other whether the president did something inappropriate because you were not there. You do not know for a fact one way or the other. You can't actually add anything to this. All you're really doing is saying as well, you were there, you did not see anything. And so, I think I sort of am concerned about the sort of dispassionate nature or the lack thereof of the actual interview that's going on.
Okay, a lot more questions, I think one could say, Andrew, than answers. Glenn, walk us through your reporting, what you were hearing from the Justice Department about the decision to release these transcripts.
Well, there was some internal debate, my understanding. It was by no means a unanimous decision to put this stuff out. I think there's been kind of a debate over the past few weeks as to whether or not this would raise more questions than it will answer, that having Blanche come out and produce what, at least prima facie, and we've got a bunch of people looking at it, and I've spent about 45 minutes looking at it, appears to be giving the government and the White House all of the answers from a political perspective that they could have hoped for. Whether or not that is going to slake the demand for more information and these accusations among Trump's base that all of their former allies are now participating in a cover-up. One thing I want to say, just to follow up on what Andrew said before, this is on the website, the Department of Justice website. All the people who've released this information are officials with important job titles, but this is extremely weird. All of this process is not normal. Nothing that was done in this case, in this whole scenario with Blanche going down there last month and interviewing Maxwell, is in the book. In fact, it is, I hate to use the word unprecedented, but there is not a lot of precedent for what happened. First of all, Todd Blanche, the #2 person in the Justice Department, is Donald Trump's former defense lawyer. And if you listen to the audio, it sounds like a direct examination in a courtroom without a cross-examination. That was an observation that a former DOJ employee, a former DOJ prosecutor sent me. And secondly, Ghislaine Maxwell has every incentive in the world to say positive things about Trump. And there's this passage in there that's extraordinary in which he says he's a great president and he's achieved all these wonderful things. I think the question that arises here is, why did this happen? What was his initial purpose, Blanche, in going down there? Was it to find facts in a case that had already been exhaustively investigated, or was it to provide a political result for the White House? I think it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction to this, and it is also noteworthy that this is coming out late on a Friday afternoon, several hours after they executed a search warrant at John Bolton's house. This is not Monday morning, 8 a.m. stuff. This is end of summer, Friday afternoon.